Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be doing a species profile on the Panda Garra, or otherwise known as scientifically as Garra Flavatra. Now, this is a really interesting little fish that I kind of discovered by accident a few years ago when I was putting a tank together. There was a few of these in the store, and I thought they were kind of interesting looking, and I ended up putting them in my tank. And what I discovered over a year of having those in that tank is my tank was very, very clean. I had no real cleanup crew in there, and I had heard that these guys were algae eaters, and so I kind of experimented on that a little bit by letting them loose. I think it was like 4 or 5 of these. You don't want to keep these in a pair because there can be some problems with that. But you can keep them single in the tank, or you can keep a group of 4 to 5. That's probably the best way to keep them. But I was finding that my tank, the algae in the tank was just non-existent, and I couldn't figure out what fish was creating that situation. And I discovered very quickly that this Panda Garra was just an absolute algae eating machine, and I've been in love with this fish ever since. And as you can see, they love to climb out around the glass and other areas, and they're constantly feeding on anything that's on the glass and whatever. Now, this can be a problem if you don't have a lid on your tank, because these guys are very much known for being able to escape out of a tank, and then you find them on the floor in your gallery or your fish room, and that's not a good thing, obviously, but they tend to do that. So you want to make sure you do have a lid on your tank. Now, as I said, these guys are found around the Aquarium mountain range, which is in western Miramar, and there's a handful of streams and rivers up in that area where several species of this particular Garra are found. And Miramar is a monsoon area, meaning they have really wet and dry periods. When the Panda Garra was discovered, it was really pretty much in the dry season. They were found in parts of the stream that had dried into small pools and puddles, and the water in these sections were stagnant and slow moving and had relatively little amounts of oxygen in plants, which is the only way the scientists that were looking at these particular fish at the time were able to collect them. It is, however, probably that the Panda Garras end up in a main body of water or a river with high oxygenation and that sort of thing during the wet season. And the wet season would run probably around October on into November and through April of the following year. So yeah, these guys do like oxygenated water, well oxygenated water, and they do like a little bit of movement in the tank. So let's talk about care a little bit here. The difficulty of this fish is easy. The size of the tank that you want, if you're just keeping the Garra themselves, a 10 to 20 gallon would be something that you'd want to have. The lifespan of this fish is about 5 to 6 years. It's really not known because they're so new to the industry and to the hobby that we don't really know. But we know that they are an omnivore. That's what their diet is, and if you're looking for something that's going to replace that kind of destructive bristlenose pleco, this is the perfect fish for that. Now, the temperature in your tank that you want to keep these guys at is 72 to 81 degrees Fahrenheit, or 22 to 27 degrees Celsius. You want a pH around 6.0 to 7.5, and the hardness would be 2 to 12 DKH. Temperament on these guys is generally very peaceful. Some species of the Garra can be aggressive, but this particular species is not. I've never really seen any problems with any type of fish whether it be a South American tank or a Central American tank or even an African tank. I've seen these guys do really well. Now, if you're wanting to breed these guys, it can be very challenging to do, so I don't recommend that you try to do this and get frustrated with it, because the success of breeding them is not going to be very good. Now, they are bottom dwellers and structure dwellers, meaning that they like to cruise the bottom of the tank looking for algae or pieces of food that have ended up in your tank. So they're great cleanup fish as far as that goes. And you will see them also running up and down, as I said earlier in the video, the side walls of your tank, which as I said, you got to be careful of that because they can end up out of the tank. Availability of these fish, I see them in stores now and then, but it is probably something you won't have a hard time finding online. Believe it or not, these fish actually do have an aggression monitor that is sort of built into them, and you can tell when they're being aggressive or can be aggressive by their color. If they're turning a pale yellow, that means that the fish is getting to be in a more aggressive state. The blacker the rings are or the main body is on the fish, the better this fish is going to be excuse me, adapting to your tank. And as I said, you want to keep a group of 5 of these at a minimum, or you want to keep a solo fish, because again, this will keep aggression down amongst the Garra themselves, and I think that that's a very important thing to do. So a natural habitat for these guys would be a mixture of sand and pebbles and lots of rocks, so that they can kind of cruise over the top of them and eat algae from them. Also lots of plants. You want plants that are a type of plant such as Anubias, Java ferns, swords, those kinds of plants where these guys have a lot of surface area that they can clean and maintain in the tank. And as I said, I will put these guys up against just about any fish that is considered a cleaner fish, such as Siamese algae eaters, plecos, any kind of catfish that is considered an algae eater. I will put these guys up against them, and they do an absolutely amazing job without being a disruptive member of your community tank. Like I said, best plants for them are Anubias, swords, Java ferns, and those kinds of plants. Like I said, also they're bottom dwellers, so whatever you can keep as a sandy bottom or small pebbles is really best for this fish. So if you don't know that much about this fish, run out and get a few of them and try them in your tank. You will be absolutely amazed at the unbelievable amounts of algae that these guys can eat and how clean your tank will be that you're keeping these in. And as I said, they're not aggressive towards other species. I've never found them to be a problem with any other fish. I've even have them in with my discus fish on occasion, and they do really, really well. Now, something that I would tell you is that if you are going to be keeping a group of these guys, make sure you do have a big enough tank, because a group of 5 is going to require a 50 to 75 gallon tank in order to have territory where this doesn't become an issue for the fish itself. So thank you for joining me today. I wanted to give you a bit of a species profile on a fish that, like I said, I discovered just a few years ago, and discovered it to be probably one of the best algae eaters I've ever come across ever. So thank you for joining me today. Enjoy this fish. Go out and find some. If you can't find them in your local store, you can find them online. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you on the next one. Until then, take care and enjoy the hobby. Also, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, and share. That's how the channel grows. Thank you again.